My name is Alan D'Souza. I'm a librarian at City College. I'm part of the AFT 2121 leadership team. I'm on the executive board and faculty organizer. But more importantly, I'm a City College alumni. City College gives everyone the opportunity to figure out who they are and what they want to be. And it's something we cannot devalue as the administration does. Eliminating City College programs is not a real option and would fundamentally undermine our city's ability to recover from a global pandemic. The layoff notices were sent to 163 full-time tenured and tenure-track faculty, but it implies hundreds of more layoffs to part-time faculty. 81% of our part-time faculty will be laid off. 30% of our full-time faculty will be laid off, which means 65% of all our faculty will be laid off. Worse yet, significantly worse yet, is that represents 30,000 students each semester that would lose educational opportunities altogether. It's time for San Francisco to stand up for City College and the AMT program. We call on our leaders at City College and SFO to recommit to revitalization of the AMT program and find a home for the program at the airport. We call on all our electeds to fight any attempts to privatize this or any City College program.
And we need to have an equitable distribution of classes and accessible locations for everyone in the city. Rescind the pink slips!
For me, City College was a life changer. And when I started going to City, I took classes in LGBT studies and broadcasting and media as well, and sociology, women's studies. I became connected with the Project Survive community and became a peer educator. Almost all of my dear ones now I met at City College, and it was the first. It's my heart, you know. It is my most dear and personal and by far favorite educational experience I've had.
Let's give a warm welcome to Natalie Roque of Underfunding San Francisco.
I would not be standing here if it weren't for all of their efforts to educate me on the ongoing struggle and fight of marginalized people. I am a second-year CCSF student. Unfortunately, I am forced to enroll to a different community college because CCSF no longer offers all of the classes I need in order to transfer to a four-year university. The only Philippine Studies department in the entire United States is facing threat of closure.
Education for all! No ifs, and no buts! Education for all!
Thank you, everyone. We received a little update. It's actually 600 faculty that are being laid off, including faculty, part-time staff. So, this is such a shame, guys. So, up next, I'm going to invite Tariq Forar. He's a former chair of the CCSF African American Studies, as well as a history professor.
Well, I started teaching at CCSF exactly 30 years ago, the spring semester of 1991. There were 112,000 students enrolled at CCSF. 112,000. Every department, every program was flourishing. City College was a school that belonged to the people of San Francisco. It was a school that put the people of San Francisco first. It was the first school in the country to have a Filipino studies department. It was the first school in the country to have an LGBT studies department. It was one of the first schools in the country to have a Latin American Studies Department, an African American Studies Department. And when the school was taken over, the first thing that happened was to put those departments on notice that they were a waste of money, a waste of resources. The model of education, and we should put that in quotation marks, that this agenda is putting forward, is one that trains people to be effectively machines, right? To produce, to generate wealth for those who control the society. Now they say that that this use of funds is fiscally irresponsible. Of course, in their model of the world, it's fiscal responsibility to pay 6 times as much to keep someone in jail as to educate them. So you cannot pretend to stand for social justice. You cannot pretend to progressivism and do what is being done to CCSF.
DSPS stands for Disabled Students Programs and Services. As of 2019-2020, they served 2,634 students. 24.49% of them are Hispanic.
One of the programs that I'm supporting is DSPS, Disabled Students Programs and Services. Their classes are being cut by 40%. I personally use DSPS services. I use the accommodations for my classes. The accommodations I receive will not be affected by the cuts, thankfully, but I do think it is extremely important for people with disabilities to be able to access the education that they want to.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Brianna Smith. Thanks for having me. They want to take our city college classes, man, to take our art, ethnic studies, anything they can. Well, that ain't right, and we got to stand up to the man. They say our teachers are dispensable. Teachers are dispensable? Imagine that. How do we learn without teachers? That thought is incomprehensible. Who will run the programs that protect equity? I say, who will run the programs with care and unity? Oh, I see. They will give us more computerized learning with no community.
Classes for the masses. Art classes for the masses. Art classes for the masses.
I'm going to start with a statement from my loved one, Malik Washington, who cannot be here because he is caged in a halfway house and is gagged from being able to speak at events like this. Right? That's some serious boo. All right, on his behalf, I'm going to read his statement and then I'm going to read mine. I want to thank everybody for showing up today. It's very important for us to support this movement, which seeks to fight for equity of education, but not just equity, but accessibility of equality education for all of the community members of the city of San Francisco. Now, one thing I want to tell you is that historically we have seen a pattern of conduct from Torrance Bynum, the dean of CCSF. We have seen a pattern in which he colludes with other city and government officials in order to defund classes and programs at CCSF in such a way that disparages and impacts minority students at a more disproportionate rate than any others. In other words, these people are going out of their way to defund programs and classes that would improve the education and the quality of life of our minority members.
Independent news outlets and all the newspapers, all the independent media is getting wiped out. There's a reason for that, because you can control the narrative. They don't want the people to have control over the narrative. It's not just what kind of job you have. That's not enough. That's not enough to live, right? It's just not. And if we don't value the diversity of what education has to offer, because it's not just what you learn in the books, right? There's the education of life. It's different people, how different people think and live and what they create in the world. We gotta make space for that.
So next up, we have Sean Purcell from the CCSF for Sean Monterosa. They're going to talk about their work as well as the police brutality against City College students.
CCSF for Sean is a CCSF collective contingent focused on supporting the Justice for Sean efforts. We want to amplify Sean Monterosa's life and his family's fight for justice. Sean Monterosa was a former CCF student who was killed by Vallejo police officer Jared Ton on June 2nd, 2020. Boom! We always need solidarity, especially Black and Latinx and Asian and all people of color, and as there always has been and as there always should be. Black and brown unity.
The Rebuild City College campaign. Please give a warm welcome.
We've seen it over and over again. The administration don't cop to their mistakes. They deny them, and they make it even worse than it was before, right? I think it was Professor Lilian Villarasa this morning who said something about, how do you expect your administration to change if you don't change your administration? We have been sitting on millions of dollars, right? This is money that we have begged our administration to use to research the best uses for.
We have Professor Adele Fales Carpenter. She's the director of the Project Survive program, which has changed so many people's lives who are here.
They seem to think that there's no alternative, even though we know that there's a federal infrastructure bill coming out with a proposal for two-year community college. We should be leading that discussion at the national level about the value our community colleges bring to our communities, because San Francisco already fought for and won Free City College. We need to be around to lead that conversation, and that means we need to fight for the funding we need right now, and we need to fight these cuts. We know that it comes at the cost of the mental health of our communities. We know that it comes at the cost of more working class and poor students of color ending up in cages or killed by the police, like too many of our students have been. And anyone who thinks that Black and brown students, queer and trans students, survivors of violence, disabled students, anyone who thinks that working people in San Francisco are not going to fight back against this austerity agenda, they have not met you. And they don't know what San Francisco has been through in the last several decades fighting against gentrification and displacement. They don't know you. So let's show them who we are. Please call your supervisors, call the mayor, call the trustees, and tell them that there is no alternative to defending our community college, which belongs to our community. Thank you so much. Thank you to the student organizers.
Let's end with the chant. Maybe El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo